So welcome everybody. IoT deep dive number, what is this, April? So
April 4.
So IoT deep dive number 4. This is the third one in our BLE series. Today we have covered so far brief overview, how to do GAP, how to do GAT, how to do customize things, how to do all sorts of shenanigans from super simple to total custom code. Today we have Don from the wonderful Arrow to talk to us about manufacturing and how to go to production of BLE devices. And so we're going to have a 30 to 45 minute talk covering now you've built something cool, how do you build it and scale, really.
Yep. And
then after that, we're going to have an open hack session where we've got a couple engineers from the office who all know BLE. So if you have questions, you have comments, you want to try something, we'll be here, we'll have sensors, we'll have boards, and we're going to build stuff. We also have prizes, whoever builds the coolest thing. So stick around for that. But with that, I'm going to hand off to Don and go have pizza.
Thanks, awesome. So hi everyone. I've been here for the 4 weeks, four periods as well. That last one I missed, I got sick. But Arrow's, when I heard about the deep dive meetup, I went to a couple of suppliers and said, hey, this is a pretty cool idea. Would anybody want to help get us some evaluation systems for the lab so everybody could have something to work on so you didn't have to buy it? So I went up to Nordic and asked them for a favor, and they helped me get the boards to loan for this class, which was really great. Nobody had to go out and buy their own stuff. You know, I'm an application engineer for Arrow. Arrow is a $23 billion company. Most people think of us as electronic components. We're a lot more than that. We're behind almost all the tools you guys potentially use in the industry. Some of you guys heard this spiel a month ago at the other IoT meetup. I don't have as much of that. I have 10 slides to talk about Arrow. But you know, we're here to help you guys get products to market. We're trained by, we have 350 suppliers or so globally that we support. The application engineering team gets trained on the semiconductor products generally, some on the passive components as well, of all the suppliers that want to get their parts out in your hands. On Freescale and Nordic, we actually go through labs where we go to deep dives and learn the product at a higher level. So we have 4 application engineers in Austin. We're supported by 40 guys in Denver that back us up as well. And if we need help, we go back all the way to the suppliers where we know the direct contacts to some of the supply guys that maybe the apps guy that did the board for us, right? So we have access to a lot of different things. But, you know, the slide deck I'll get out to everybody. Watch this YouTube video. I'm not going to play it here. I don't have audio to play it. But it kind of tells you what the Internet of Things immersion is. We've done this in 5 cities, Boston, San Jose, Atlanta, I don't know the other 2 cities. When we do this, we're not only there, IBM is there, Verizon is there, AT&T is there. Everybody that plays in the machine-to-machine space is part of this as well. So in that YouTube video, there's keynote pieces from multiple vendors that talk about what the future of IoT is. And part of what I was asked to do is kind of cover concept to production. And so using the Nordic NRF51DK as a fundamental space in the concept, we're moving forward from that board and how we would take something like that to production. As support personnel, my RF designer that has got more than 40 BTLE designs under his belt, lives in Austin, is a great consultant, was sick and can't make it today. He'll come at another meetup, maybe the next one, and get a few minutes to talk to you guys as well. He was the majority of my conversations. When we start talking about hardware, he's got the knowledge of getting the price in and the volume. And my sales guy's not here to talk about getting pricing. So I have a really rough estimate of pricing. And I know it scales well. I've seen it scale. And if my consultant was here, he could talk a little bit more about what he's seen in that space. Next week he will. or next month he will, right? And so the other piece I got is I asked one of the contract manufacturers to come here to also help. John Rodriguez is here with me, and he also has the capability, and he'll talk a little bit about taking things from NPI through production, from low volume to high volume as well. So Arrow's been around since 35. We started on Radio Road back in New York, Melville area, selling vacuum tubes, right? So we've been around a long time. $22 billion in 2013, 22.9, 23, 2014 numbers. 16,500 employees. We're a big company. We own lots of other companies as well, so it's all part of this number. We're Fortune 141 for people that care about where Fortune ranks are. This is kind of an ecosystem picture where we have the parts that make systems, software that makes systems, the targets of all the different stacks that are part of it that come in intelligent systems where we have connect or control. The presentation from the IoT guys will spend 30 minutes talking about it. I don't want to take much time. I want to get back to hands-on. That's what this is about. The interesting piece to me in the IoT space is this slide. Maybe I'm blocking it, you guys can't see it. The hardware is this bottom piece of that. That is $50 billion of a $600 billion business. $50 billion, 3% of this IoT space is hardware. 70% of it is services and data, right? And so kind of my speech is focusing on hardware is not the only answer on making money in the space. Moving data, measuring data, charging for data, and control services is an immense part of the area. 73% of the customers that have talked about moving in this space haven't launched a product yet. Still looking at it. The worldwide market will grow from 1.9 trillion to 7.1 trillion, big numbers. Huge growth is out there, kind of like solid state lighting. There's a huge market ready to go. Maybe all the little pieces aren't put together yet to really capitalize on that. That's kind of my view. So we still got to get a lot of those little pieces put together to see that exponentiate out there. But again, market revenue, 3% hardware, 20% in the connectivity, and 77% in services. Huge numbers. This is our machine-to-machine ecosystem. So we have radio suppliers, near-field communication, RFID, service providers. So these guys are the guys that do cellular service, those kind of back-end things. You guys know M2M space for connectivity, telemetry, bug labs, device cloud, tele. And then we have design services where if you're doing a radio, these guys have the tools where they could go and do certifications for you or provide RF design services. All those guys do that as well. So when we break that down from suppliers to the different products they have, where I have ISM or Zigbee-ish radios, here's my modules, NFC, RFID, Bluetooth, 802.11, or cellular. So all the way to satellite. I got lots of solutions for all those end areas that are out there, and lots of slides to cover those products as well. What we see typically in the edge device connectivity is either people want to do their full design with a chipset, we want to use a certified module, or they take the whole certified modem where they want to UART in and connect it with RS-232 and just go through it with AT commands. It's certified, ready to go. Or I'm out in the field next to an oil tank and they go out with these radio box modems. They're certified, waterproof, so forth, right? So I got different customers with different requirements. You know, certainly chipsets are cheaper if I get to the certification. Certification costs are pretty high, especially in a radio modem. that goes on a cellular network. You got to get a lot of certification before you can plug it in and make it work with them. But I have modules for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, again, 802.11 or 802.15.4, ISM, all kinds of things, right? However you want a device to talk wirelessly, I have solutions for those things. Now specific to BTLE, right? We have a complete line of chipset, module, and board level products. So again, the Nordic, kind of focus on Nordic, BTLE, the NRF51 DK, right? At the bottom. This guy's an RF digital board. So it's a module with a SIP socket so you can plug it into a board. This is an Arduino footprint kind of compatible part. I got a bunch of different modules from them. Right, these guys are a little bit more expensive, right? For us, if we really want to do things, get into the module space, right? That's where the price gets down. I don't have a picture of chip, but chip is the ultimate price, right? When you do your own certification, that's where you really want to get to. But modules get us down so I can start getting money coming in to help pay for the certification, right? So there's one piece of, I got a slide kind of showing the cost breakdown and trade-off where it hits, right? That kind of covers, I can use modules maybe to 1,500 units, and then I cross my threshold of, I've passed my certification testing and price, and now I'm making money without having to buy the module. So. Other costs, you guys are probably pretty aware of, getting prices done, and Bluetooth SIG, if I'm not an associate, I think if I'm an associate, I get a 4K new product introduction. Adopter with no annual fees, you got to pay $8,000 for a product. Interestingly though, I've talked to quite a few people that have launched Bluetooth products that never got their parts listed. And because they talk to whatever the device and the host is, it works with their system, and they never took it to Bluetooth. So there's a lot of guys out there like that too. So go to Bluetooth, pay the fees, get it listed. It's okay. The associate or the low-level member, the adopter member has no annual fees. The associate level has 7,500 membership fees. And if you're a high-level company, if your sales are over $1 million or $100 million, then you have to pay $15,000, something like that, right?
So quick interjection, that video he's talking about goes back to when I was talking about creating custom UUIDs. If you want a custom UUID, you pay the 8K. If you want to use standard UUIDs, like for existing standardized services,
yeah, right. It can hide in the cloud. Right. So many of you guys could probably teach me more about MFI with Apple, but if you want to use iOS kind of things, then you have to be working with Apple. Get your attorneys together, talk to attorneys so you can get the MFI listing with Apple. As far as I know, there's no Android listing fee, right? Android, Google wants you to work with them, so they don't want to try to put any roadblocks up. So looking at a bunch of my suppliers, what's the advantages of the module? Certification's done, SEC compliance is ready to go. There's a partner if it doesn't work. Well, what happens if I can't debug it or this has some radio interference problems? My finger points back up to the supplier that did the module. I have support. I can go back to their labs and do testing. And one of the great things about the Nordic guys from the chipset is if I have an RF design, I can go to Nordic's RF team in Europe, and they'll take a look at my RF layout and give me advice on how to make it meet specs, right? Their knowledge in RF can be utilized to get any customer assistance on an RF layout. We got local guys that know it really well too. To me, the big thing for modules is that quick time to revenue. Many guys can't afford to do the certification cost at the beginning of the company. But if you're paying the module, that's a higher price, but at least you have revenue coming in, so you have money in the bank to get your certification in the long run. So here's just a real quick kind of comparison. Yeah, this board is $80 or so for the NRF51 DK that we've been using. The modules, and it's just a guesstimate of, this was a last year number that I got, was a $10 price for a module. And that's not high volume. That's just a relative number comparing things. And then the chip level design, ideally it'd be $3. Well, a Nordic chip, if I go to DigiKey's website, it's $5.60 for a one piece price. Right? Nobody wants to build a bunch of systems at one piece per unit, right? So that's probably not a fair price. In volumes, we've certainly seen well under $2 on the chipset, right? And I just would have to go for quotes depending on what the volumes are. But I put together a couple of charts that kind of highlight how you amortize the product, right? Here's my module, $10. Well, you know, if I say the module $6, that changes that curve a little bit. If certification is 25,000, depends which test house you go to. I hear numbers from 6 to 50, and so I just put a point in the sand that said 25, just to kind of get a where the curve is in volumes. Chip down board cost, I came up with another estimate of $4, and so I built the curve, how many units and what my crossover point is, right? Around 5,000 units, I've paid for certification. Well, here's another way to look at it is, what's my certification cost per unit? Well, right at 1,000 units, it's $25,000, so it's $25 a module. I'm not getting a lot of money off of that. At 10,000, I'm at $2.50 a module. So that module price at $4 plus $2.50, I've already surpassed the volume I need to be price effective, right, in volumes. Frankly, if I'm launching a company, I don't think I'm gonna be successful if I sell out with 5,000 units, I'm done. Right, so my goal is gonna be a lot higher than that anyway. 100,000 units, I'm at 25 cents a month. Now that price is really attractive. Now at maybe a little bit less than $4, right? And 25 cents for certification, I've got something that really sells in volume. One of the other concepts that I've chatted about with others is the concept of, if I had 5 boards that I need Bluetooth on, why don't I do my own module, certify it, so I can use that footprint on all my boards and not have to do 5 certifications, right? So there's ways to leverage that as well. Here's a price estimate, because some people like to see spreadsheets instead, right? And so here I have a module at 10K, at 100K. So I've dropped a little bit of price on the circuit board. The module's dropped in price, all relative estimates, right? No crystal required. The passes for lower volume, $25 a module system, enclosed shipping. 100K, I've got it down another $10. For chip-based, I start equivalent to the 100K price, right? But at 100K, yeah, I've dropped another $10 a unit price, right? Volume sells it, right? It's what has to happen to make the price right. This isn't accurate. I would go through a quote and get with my sales guy to get you a real quote to get the pricing required. The contract manufacturer would come in and talk about their piece of it, how they can make sure the supply chain works for you. And this is about my last slide. Well, here's another picture I wanted to talk about. Johnny, if you come up, then I'll turn over the floor real quick. But I wanted to do a quick comparison of the black magic of RF. I don't know the background of the people in here. Here's my tuning circuit for the antenna on one side. And there's some black magic, because all the interelectrode capacitance, inductance, and stuff on the traces come into play when I have values of 1 picofarad of capacitance to do the tuning circuit, right? Wow. And so the layout gets real critical. Well, this cost versus the electronic circuit next to it, the balun from ST makes it simple. Lowers the parts count and makes the RF design much simpler. Both of these are schematic designs from the Nordic side, and they're saying, you know, this is the easier way to do it. It may be a little bit more costly, but gives you more forgiveness in the circuit board layout. My RF guy can talk miles about that, and I would push it off into another meeting. When you guys have questions about RF design, he'll be here next time. So from the RF digital side, for guys that are doing Arduino things, single module with an antenna, again in that $6 to $10 price range. I'm not sure exactly where it falls in without doing real quotes. Here's an Arduino shield of that with a couple IOs so you can plug it in. Here's a board that'd be used in a development system. And then these guys become sales units that they do for targeted things. I've got a couple of switches. I have some potentiometers going to the A to D ports. I have some of these boards that have LEDs, some of them have relays. But RF Digital kind of deployed that Arduino thing so you could hook up a bunch of different interfaces to the Nordic chipset and take it away, right? So it's out there. It's a pretty nice development thing under Arduino. And I think that's an interesting note. And from that, I'm going to turn it over to John, and he is going to talk a little bit about how you take the product, right, and move it from NPI to production.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to come by. So I've kind of worked with Arrow for a number of years, and I'm now contract with contract manufacturing called Centronic. How much time do I have? 10 minutes is fine.
10, 15.
Okay.
What you need.
Okay. So just to kind of give you an idea, we were born in Houston in 1995. About 3-4 years ago now, we bought a facility here in Austin and another facility in Richardson, Texas. In Houston, we have proto and production. That's about 25,000 square feet. Two production lines, one proto line. And then here in Austin, we have about 10,000 square feet, and it is strictly small builds and proto. We bought that about 3 years ago from a company called KLD. We've kind of overtaken it. We have maybe about a staff of 12 there. We have certified solder techs, surface mount, receivers, production floor managers and stuff like that here. So we've really actually beefed up Austin to try to get the business and go and to support you. In Richardson, that's our biggest facility. That's about 75,000 square feet. We have, again, that's another proto production, conformal coats, AOI, selective solder, in all three of our sites. X-ray, 2D X-ray here, 3D X-ray in Richardson. BGA rework. We also do through holes and cables, as well as we could buy the plastics, metals, and metals for your full enclosure. To kind of get back into what you're looking for protos, I would really ask you to work with either myself or definitely distribution, because I know as engineers, sometimes you guys will kind of go on to DigiKey or just kind of have an idea of a resistor and a value in mind, but you really don't. You tend not to scrub the parts. That's where you kind of work in with Arrow and distributors, and they can help you clean up your BOM. So like you said, you can actually put it off to them and they'll help you with that. There's always the portion of where like I said, you work with people like Don and they can help you scrub parts and get you the support that you need. Where else should I go?
What test capabilities do you have here in this facility?
So here
if somebody had a problem with the board, do you have X-ray at all here?
Yeah, we have 2D X-ray here, 3D X-ray in Richardson. We have flying probe, and we do have a QC. Now, functional test, basically what that would be is you would find, we actually have a test engineer that can come work with you to build your test fixture, and then we could of course test it and kind of work the bugs out and stuff like that with you. And then, like I said, we would just, after we build the boards, we could functional test for you and then place it in the enclosure if you wanted to take it that far. We've actually even blind shipped to the customer's customer, because a lot of you want to be virtual companies. You want to stick to design and bring to fruition new designs and new technology, next gens, but you don't want to deal with the logistics or the manufacturing, and so we could actually do that for you. I stock product for my customers in our Richardson facility. We have a couple months of inventory, and then we just kind of pull and blind ship. We order the plastics, and even the pamphlets and the boxing with your logos and stuff like that on it. So you just kind of, I guess, go a little bit.
How do I scale with you?
I'm sorry?
How do I scale with you from 100,000 unit, 1,000 units to why would I go to China?
I know there's a place for China, and really, I would really consider China really for consumer markets, maybe LED, where you have to compete with the Philips on commodity product. However, I kind of also noticed though that if you set a niche, you can really be price leaders, and you can build video equipment along with your LEDs. You can have a bunch of other functional items, and you really set your niche. Then you can actually command your pricing. You don't necessarily need to go to China for that stuff. One of the things I'd like to warn you about China, they do have their place. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, I've actually been taking business back from China, where the Chinese, they will go back, put in parts, substitute parts on your design, and send you back, and all you really get is just a bunch of rejects. I've worked with a particular customer that he's kind of has a headpiece headset, and when he asked for the BOM back, because he was getting so many rejections from China, that they sent him the BOM back, and none of it was real. And so we actually had to find a design house to help him re-engineer his board, and we're now just tuning it, and maybe in a couple more weeks we'll be set to send his first production here in the United States. So yeah, there's a place for China. You got to really be careful. I mean, there's hidden costs, upfront fees. You guys pretty much have to pay in advance, if I remember correctly. You're at risk also for IP. I mean, you've worked hard for your product, and I don't know, like I said, there are some companies that are out there that will take your product or rebuild it and sell it as a knockoff. This is your name. These are your babies. I would be very proud and want to be very protective, of my design. Your names are on that, and so I would make sure try to keep it in the States and go, high and use high quality parts and worthwhile authorized contract manufacturers. I'm sorry, I saw your hand up.
Oh no, it's just. Anyone have any questions? Anyone want to go to production looking to produce anything?
How many people use design houses versus doing all the design themselves?
It depends on how big the customer is, really. If you have a bigger customer, they have the software guys, they have the people that they have on staff. But I think the engineering rate is about
my answer is more, when do you need to be in market? Right, it's time to market. If you don't beat somebody else with the idea, is somebody going to have something similar, right? And so we've qualified design houses of big numbers, but most startups can't afford it, right? Well, I can give you 100 engineers to start right now out of 5 different consulting firms. That's not necessarily what you need, but maybe some of the local consultants that are here could help me and give you guidance to that is much more intelligent, that's not as expensive.
It's much more effective for you because, yeah, he's right. I mean, with these bigger design houses, becomes a lot of overhead. And there's a bunch of it, guys, that are already working, already have jobs, but like designing for fun, it can be consultants. I have a couple that when I talk to you guys and other startup groups, they ask, hey, do you know a good, design engineer that, can kind of do design overview? And like I said, I try to network with each and every one of you guys, as well as other people. And I'll throw them a bone and say, hey, you want to do something on the side, and they'll work with you, and they're pretty cheap. Because basically they already have a job.
I have examples where we have customers that have gone through design, and it's a pretty complex board to bring up, and they couldn't get Linux to boot, right? They spent 3 months trying to get it to come up, right? And then I talked to the program manager, and he's going, we're missing all our deadlines. We got to get this thing going. I don't know what to do with these guys. I don't know how to get them help, and they're asking me to get the support from the supplier to get it done. And they go, there's 2 people I know that there's a company up in Minnesota that's really good at this. It's their expertise. And there's a company here in Austin. And we brought both of them to the table, and they went with the company here in Austin, and the next day they had it booted. Right? I mean, experience knowing how to do something, even though it may be a little bit more expensive, shuts that down. It's done. They took a look at it and go, boom, oh, he's not hooking up SPI right. You need to invert this. And they know it. But I'm reading a manual that's 9,000 pages deep. Right. And so those other guys really try to do something over the top, and then it gets to pull it up. Right. So there's a time and a place. And we work with those guys every day. And so we know what a lot of guys need, and we can help kind of participate. Now, a big aerospace firm comes to me and says they need help, I pull that big company in. Right? They're used to paying fees and getting that engineering time in 2 weeks. And there's a place for that. But not everybody can afford $200,000 fees.
Same thing with PCB layout. I mean, you have guys that actually, houses that can do the PCB layout, but then you also have guys, that are affordable guys doing it out of their house, as a second job. I mean, that helps you guys out. They're much cheaper. Don knows.
So my RF consultant, he kind of speaks about, he typically is up to like 4 in the morning. He associates with people between noon and 5 to get the information he needs. And after 5, the phone goes silent, he can finally get to work. He does his RF design before he goes to sleep after 3 o'clock. He says it's so easy, I'm not worried about missing something anymore. Like, once you do it enough, it becomes second nature. I'll never be at that level, just probably at anything. But wow, that's impressive that a guy can sit there and do that design.
One thing I want to kind of give you guys a heads up on for products, the board. There's a lot of PCB manufacturers out there that kind of charge a flat rate. So when you're looking for your 2 or 3 piece quote, you almost get sticker shock when it comes to PCB. Well, the cool thing about just kind of networking and stuff like that, Antonio gave me just a lead on oshpark.com. Is that correct? Yes. And basically what those guys do is they basically have 2-layer, 4-layer. I think the 2-layer is like $5 per square inch, and the 4-layer is about $10 per square inch. And what they do is basically they just pull, they get your schematics and your Gerbers, and they kind of pull them together so you guys just as a team can be one customer, and you guys kind of share those costs. So I would encourage you guys to to work with those kind of out of the box solutions for you guys.
We're gonna hang around for a while, so you guys have any questions, you can come back and chat with us.
Yep. I've got 3 engineers here, so if anyone has any BLE questions or wants to work on anything, we're here to help.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. I also forgot to mention, but I would also like to thank Don for lending us the boards for the last 2 months. Those giant BLE boards we've been using have all come from Don, so thank you. So yeah, any questions? If not, let's do something cool with BLE. We've got some boards. Everyone knows how to use the online compiler. So let's grab some boards.
I mentioned also that visual web